You're watching another True Villain commentary.
Alright everybody, it's True Villain. Welcome back. Season 3 Reloaded is finally here for Black Ops 7. But the real question is not whether they added content. The real question is whether any of this is enough to actually move the needle. Because on paper, this is a pretty stacked mid-season update. New maps, returning maps, new zombies content, Warzone LTMs, weapon changes, event rewards, score streak adjustments, anti-cheat talk for next season. There is actually a lot here. So if you're somebody still actively playing BO7, I'm not gonna lie, this is one of those updates where you can log in and at least feel like the game gave you something to do. But let's be honest from the jump. Content heavy does not automatically mean problem solving. And that's where this update gets way more interesting. Because if you just look at the bullet points, yeah, Reloaded sounds good. Multiplayer got Onsen, plus the returns of Summit and Hacienda. Zombies got the new round-based map Totenreich, a new main quest, new challenge rewards, and the Wildfire Field upgrade. Warzone got new modes like Hot Pursuit and Prop Hunt Royale, plus the usual playlist refreshes and equipment additions. Then, on top of that, they rolled out a RoboCop event pass, more weekly rewards, weapon tuning, and some score streak updates. That is real content. Nobody can say they dropped nothing. But the real test for Reloaded updates is always the same. Does this bring people back? Or does it just give the existing player base something new for a week? That's the whole conversation. And starting with multiplayer, I actually think this is where the update does a pretty solid job in the short term. Not because it reinvents anything, but because the map lineup is smart. Onsen is the brand new one, and then you've got Summit and Hacienda, which are two names that already have built-in goodwill with COD players. So right away, they're playing the safe card a little bit, but in a way that probably works. If you're trying to get people back into matchmaking, recognizable map names still matter. They just do. Now, is that the same thing as fixing multiplayer's deeper issues? No, because this is where things get interesting. A couple good maps or one good new map and two strong returns can absolutely make public matches feel better for a little while. But if your bigger problems are matchmaking fatigue, stale flow, weapon balance, frustration, or just the general feeling that BO7 hasn't been hitting the way people hoped, then maps alone do not solve that. They help. They can absolutely help, but they do not magically change how the game feels at its core. And that's kind of the story of this whole update. There's a lot of stuff here that can make the game feel better in bursts, but not necessarily in a permanent way. Take the weapon tuning for example. The patch notes say Season 03 Reloaded continues adjusting the weapon sandbox with specific changes to weapons like the M15, MOD-0, AK-27, and others, while trying to boost lower usage weapons and rebalance things like upper torso multipliers and burst weapon rapid fire interactions. That matters. A healthy sandbox always matters. If weapons have been feeling too stale or too locked into a narrow meta, even small tuning shifts can make the game breathe a little more. You also got score streak adjustments, which I think some people are going to overlook, but they actually do matter. The patch notes specifically changed lockshot by reducing lock-on time to 0.65 seconds, removing the quick lock overclock, and replacing it with long shot, while Ion Core also got health reduced from 900 to 550, took increased EMP damage, and got more flexible placement. Those are not flashy headline changes, but they affect how oppressive or useful certain streaks feel in actual matches. And that's why I do think Reloaded deserves some credit here. It is not just content for content's sake. There are actual gameplay facing adjustments in here too. But if I'm being real, the part of the update that probably matters the most emotionally to a lot of players is zombies. Because Totenreich looks like the kind of addition that can actually carry some real momentum for people who are still invested in that side of the game. It's a new round-based map set in an old Norwegian fishing village caught in the dark ether. It comes with a new main quest, exclusive rewards, new Pack-a-Punch camos, cursed mode support, the Jotun style wonder weapon, and the new wildfire field upgrade that boosts your movement and burns nearby enemies. That is not light content. That is one of those zombies drops where people who care about zombies actually have a reason to lock in. And real talk, zombies might be the strongest part of Reloaded, because multiplayer getting a couple maps is nice, Warzone getting a new mode is nice, but a fresh round-based map with a quest, rewards, and a new field upgrade, that feels like something people will actually spend time with, not just skim over and forget. The wildfire upgrade especially sounds fun because it's not just defensive. It gives you that aggressive run through the horde and burn everything kind of energy. And with augments like Firestorm and Fireball, it sounds like one of those field upgrades designed to create actual gameplay moments, not just stat boosts. So if you ask me what part of Season 3 Reloaded gives the update the most life, I'd probably say zombies. Now on the Warzone side, the main headline is obviously Hot Pursuit, which is basically this police versus thieves vehicle heavy LTM on Avalon with resurgence rules, faster vehicle availability, and a more arcade chase vibe. You've also got Prop Hunt Royale on Rebirth Island, plus equipment additions like spikes and the cluster grenade. That definitely gives Warzone players more variety, and for people who are tired of the same rhythm, I can see Hot Pursuit being the kind of mode that gets some laughs, gets some clips, and breaks up the normal pacing. But again, here comes the bigger question. Is that enough to actually bring lapsed players back to Warzone, or is it just something current players mess around with until the novelty wears off? Because that's the trap with limited time modes. They can be fun, they can even be really fun, but fun for a weekend is not the same thing as fixing the long-term reasons people stop caring. And that leads into the RoboCop event, which honestly is exactly what you'd expect from a mid-season event in 2026 COD. It's a recognizable collab. It comes with a themed event pass, and it brings new rewards including the Siren special weapon, operator skins, weapon blueprints, and more XP based unlocks across all modes. That stuff has value, especially for people who like collecting cosmetics or just want more things to chase. But let's be honest, nobody is coming back to Black Ops 7 because RoboCop showed up. That is not the kind of content that fixes a game's reputation. That is the kind of content that gives active players another layer of stuff to grind. And I think that's the right way to look at Reloaded overall. This is a good update for the current player base. That is probably the fairest possible summary. If you are already in BO7, already playing multiplayer, already checking in on zombies, already messing with Warzone, then yeah, this is a pretty decent Reloaded. There is enough here to log in, explore the new stuff, chase the event rewards, test the tuning changes, and spend real time with the update. But if you are somebody who already bounced off the game, I'm not fully convinced this is the update that flips everything around, because the deeper problems people have with BO7 are not really the game has zero content. The bigger problems are stuff like fatigue, trust, identity, pacing, matchmaking, frustration, and the general feeling that Call of Duty keeps dropping updates that are nice in the moment but don't actually solve why people fell off in the first place. That is where Reloaded feels limited. Now, the one thing in this whole update cycle that I think matters way more long term than people realize is the anti-cheat and PC security side. Because Raven Software confirmed that starting in Season 04, PC players will need Microsoft Azure attestation, with TPM and Secure Boot enabled to access most playlists. Players who fail attestation get pushed into limited matchmaking and won't be able to match with compliant players or console players. That is a way bigger deal than a lot of people are gonna give it credit for, because it shows Activision and Raven are trying to put a harder gate in front of tampered PC environments. And why does that matter? Because if they actually get that right, it does more for long-term player trust than almost any random event pass ever could. People can tolerate a lot in COD. They can tolerate weird skins, busted guns for a little while, mid-map pools, all kinds of stuff. But cheating and security problems, that is one of the fastest ways to make players stop believing in the game entirely. So the fact that the bigger PC security push is coming next season might honestly matter more for BO7's long-term health than half the flashy stuff in Reloaded. So where does that leave Season 3 Reloaded? I think it leaves it in a pretty clear place. This is a strong mid-season content drop. It adds real stuff. It gives current players a lot to do. It probably makes Zombies fans the happiest. It gives multiplayer a short-term boost with strong map choices. It gives Warzone some fresh variety. And it sets up a more important anti-cheat conversation for Season 04. But whether it is enough depends on what question you're asking. If the question is, did they add content? Then yes, absolutely. If the question is, will this make the current player base happy for a bit? Then yeah, probably. If the question is, does this fix the bigger reasons people have checked out of BO7? Then I'm not gonna lie, probably not. And that's the line. Reloaded updates always walk. They can make the game feel better without truly changing the bigger conversation around it. If you've been playing BO7 lately, let me know if Season 3 Reloaded is enough to keep you on the game, or if it just feels like more stuff to mess with for a few days. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and see you guys in the next video.